Hello everybody, it's me again, Omicron Links, and I'd like to again, and as always, thank everybody in the world on YouTube and my little links for joining me on my adventures. This time we're on my channel, New England. Here we are at the entrance to one of the paths in Leominster Sate Forest. It's written Leominster, but here we say Leominster. Leominster, any type of shortened version, and as always, without the letter I. So it's gonna be a rough ride, guys. My selfie stick broke when I went to adjust the angle. So in the United States, or at least in New England area, a lot of park entrances have things to prevent public, like motorists, from using the utility entrance into a park, which is also usually the start of a path. Sometimes it is a road that follows a path. Other times it is the path. So this one here, it's actually a little more of a path, but sometimes you can fit some emergency vehicles down it. So I'm not really sure what this is. I'll have to look that up, although I got an uncle that probably knows what that is. So notice, do not leave valuables in vehicles, because while you're gone for a long time, someone might break in and steal your stuff. That's right, someone might break into your vehicle and steal your stuff. No parking in front of this area here, because the parking is back that way. Alrighty, and then usually either in front of this thing or in back of it, there's a bulletin board. Good. Sometimes they're kind enough to put trash, but so bulletin board for lodges lot. Hunting season notice. Let's see, fire safety, ultra fine print. And then we do have these path maps. So we are right here. So you notice where we parked is right where that letter P is. And then you have the long road here. All this green is Leominster Sate Forest. It might show up as kind of like a bluish color, but it's green, and it's an altitude map. These little white lines show you there's a mountain, or it's mountainous. Sometimes people don't call this, well, while it is Leominster, it's Leominster Park. Well, Leominster Park. A lot of people really come here for two things. This is a swimming area. I usually park here. I don't park here, and I don't take this path to South Crow Hill, which you can actually reach an open summit of. I'm really going to hurt my back with my bad health and my knees doing this. I really shouldn't, but I also need to get outside and get some of that vitamin D for my bones. But I usually park here and take a shorter path to this area where it's harder to reach summit. But I usually park here. It's closed off, because from this parking area you can sneak in to the beach from the back end, and the beach is open today, although like nobody's there. But you come up this little road here, and there's the brown part, and there's a parking area, and you have to pay through a ticket machine now, or an app, to use the beach, to pay for the lifeguard, and also to help pay for the whole park. But so like the whole park, and this is South Crow Hill, North Crow Hill. This is a pretty big hill. So it's elevation in the American foot and feet measurement, 1,220 feet on the south end, 1,234 feet, so 14 feet higher. Obviously, the last measurement, it might be shorter now with hydrocorrosion or water eating away. But there's pretty big. And then, so in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, whenever you're out in public, and out in public does not necessarily mean, well, obviously it means outside, but it also just means in public. Working in retail, especially the particular store that I worked in, people would show up and you could bring your dogs into the store. And what a lot of people don't realize is you're still supposed to have your dog on a leash and pick up the poopies yourself. You are responsible for your dog. And what I'm actually trying to get to is, even if you're in a building, you're still out in public. Out in public does not mean out as in outside. It's essentially just the opposite of in private becomes out public. In private, out in public. So the difference between in your private yard, that's outside, but it's in your private yard, in your private house, in a friend's private house with their permission, as opposed to not only being outside, but out in a public area like a store. You're supposed to have your animal on a leash anywhere in the state of Massachusetts. And while some towns and cities don't have regulations, a lot of them do. And the main thing is that when a town or a city has their own leash law, it's usually a not only more, what is the word I'm looking for? Enforced regulation, but it usually can have bigger fines. Like here in Leominster, this $200 fine is more akin to what Leominster wants. I think the state, I mean, unless they did change it to 200, the state used to be closer to things like 100 or 150. I do know that this is Leominster. So if you're around Leominster and you have a dog, or you decide to come in and visit the Commonwealth and New England area and bring your dog out in public, make sure it is always on a leash. It has not to do with how nice your dog is, how lovey your dog is, or how well trained your dog is. It's a dog. It needs to be on a leash. Because while your dog might be nice, doesn't mean that other dogs are nice. And it also doesn't mean that people that you might bump into out in public aren't afraid or afeared of dogs. So we have a little trail sign here. I'm not really sure that, I think, oh yeah, so this is a continuation of a utility path, a utility road. You know, it's like a path, it's a little utility road. But over here is the hiking path. Lodges Trail. Well, there's the Mid-State Trail, which is designated 0.3 miles. Top of the ledges. I've been saying lodges. Oh, ledge. Top of the ledges, or essentially the top of the hills. 0.4 miles. And Crow Hill Trail itself, the whole trail, a half a mile, 0.5. So let's go see here. One thing that I don't really like about cameras, just not the ones on cell phones, but cameras in general, is this looks pretty flat, and it is not. So let's see here. So we're going up here. This is an incline. So this is a wider section. I'm not sure how easy you can see the wornness in the path here. And then there's a little one here where you got little rocks. Yeah, there's rocks here, but these rocks are set up that you can grab them with your foot. Those ones are gonna pop out. But I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna maybe make some people dizzy. Woo! Okay, it's a little easier to see the incline. So now see how fast this went down? Yeah. But it isn't that bad. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, we're picking up 2 minutes after the last video, actually. So here's another thing too, and again, at least in Leominster, well, in the Commonwealth, usually paths are marked with indications on trees. This is just one trail area, so there's one color, right, to indicate the trail. Sometimes you'll see those bulletin boards and they'll have like the different trails, and each trail will have its own color: red, blue, yellow, green, and then also, of course, because some people are colorblind, other times they'll have shapes: rectangle, circle, triangle, star. Some will have large circles versus a small circle, so when you come to a crossroads, you know which one's which. Sometimes red can also be an indication, or even black, of a dangerous path to take. And other times there'll be a little tiny sign that's tacked into the tree that will say that it's dangerous. But I also wanted to stop here in this particular spot, not only because the path marker was here, but because this area has a lot of the New England landscape, which I'm kind of sad that it's not really showing up all too well on my particular phone. But these old worn paths and rocks with moss coming out of the ground, rocks everywhere, steep hills. This is common throughout the Commonwealth and throughout a lot of the New England area, from Connecticut up to Maine. You get all these rocky mountainous areas, but of course in the Commonwealth and our furthest western zone is what we call the Berkshires. And in the Berkshires, there's a lot more open plains and rolling hills, and beyond the farm fields and our little Berkshire mini Hobbiton, in the trees, in the sections between the fields, will be little mountainous pockets like this. But well, we have a lot of the corroding foliage, and most in New England, the Berkshires, it's harder to see that. Especially in the late spring through mid-fall, it's a lot more beautiful, bright fall foliage in the fall and luscious green everywhere. Not as much as the browns. In the rest of New England, you will get farm fields, but they are literally that. They're farm fields, or used to, shoulda, coulda, woulda been a farm field, but ain't no more. Yeah, but we got this little area over here. So you got a little fallen tree, and then here we go. These rocks, and these rocks are on the path. And big tree in the center. Ooh. Look at that. Uprooted here. But it's also kind of interesting to try to figure out, did it come from right there? So this tree was kind of growing off the other tree maybe? Or did it fall from someplace else and someone pulled it over here off the path? And it looks like it fell down a little while ago, but because it has a lot of dirt on the roots, it still has luscious green foliage. That's another really interesting thing, is how all the weird and interesting things that grow and take shape out in nature. Now, up here, it's kind of easier to see it in this picture. There is an incline coming up and another red maca. So I'm gonna pause it here and meet up with you guys again. Not sure if you guys can see it, but there is a garter snake right here. He was in the path. I'm currently like 5.5-ish feet away from him. He was on the path, which actually quite happens a lot. So in New England, when you're out in the woods or even in your backyard, this is a very common snake to see. This is actually a pretty average size, but average. So you can see them more along the size of this section here when they're smaller. And you can actually sometimes see them at about twice as long and 2, maybe even 3 times thicker in the center area. But now I'm going to approach them and you can see how they move. So guys, that was kind of cool, huh? See New England garter snake. Those are very common. And then there's another snake. It's rarer. I've seen maybe a handful in my life, and I love going out, especially as a child and a teenager, into the woods, lifting rocks and tree branches and to see what's under there, especially loving salamanders and little roly-poly-olies, which are these little tiny beetles that roll up into a ball. Getting freaked out by centipedes. Millipedes are a lot cooler. But this other snake is predominantly a light gray with a little, I don't remember if it's white or red ring snake, a ring, and then a black head. And if I remember correctly, it's called a ringneck snake. Could be a racer snake, but I think it is a ringneck snake. And then there's a third snake that's very common in the New England area. It's actually a dangerous snake. It's very venomous. It's called the cottonmouth snake. It's a very, I'm starting to lose muscle power in that arm. It's a very, very dark brown snake. It really does well camouflaging into the darker soils and mulching leaf color. The reason it's called a water moccasin is it's known to predominantly habitate around water, rivers, swamps, marshy, mucky lands. And when it feels threatened and it raises its head up, and when it does that, it reveals this white section here. And then, well, it's not why it's called that. Well, water moccasin because it's by the water. The moccasin, I'm not actually sure where it gets that. I'll have to look that up. I might end up posting an image. But a moccasin, as far as I know, is a common Native American shoe. And of course they're usually made out of different hides and leathers, which would make it a dark brown color. So my hypothesis is it might be called a water moccasin because it looks like a shoe in the water. I don't know. But again, if I figure it out, I'll probably have it posted. But again, going further up the path, oh, there might be a bug. A spider who is, I guess, actually caught on my phone. Ooh, come off. There we go. That's another thing that happens too when you're in the woods in the New England area. Spiders up in the trees come dangling down. They end up on you, little caterpillars. And then the worst things of all, mosquitoes. And horseshoe flies. Oh my goodness, horseshoe flies. Big chunky flies, and their bite feels really like you're being pinched. It hurts, and it's big. So, I mean, I'm not sure if there's flies where you are, because you are people of the world on YouTube, all over the world, not just, and maybe my little lynxes. So, I'm not sure how common flies are where you are in Antarctica. Is that where you are? Are you in a research lab? And you miss the beautiful green and your world of white and fluffy. But anyways, usually when bugs, little flies and mosquitoes land on you, you whack them and squish them, and they just feel a little squishy. Horseshoe fly, you try swatting those, and it feels like, I don't know, it's more like, it feels more solid and almost has like a prickle feeling to it. Maybe you guys can come up with some descriptions with what it's like to try to squish a horseshoe fly, especially when you think it's a regular one. But okay, I'm going to put you guys on pause and meet up with you again further up the path. You guys go your way, I'm going to go mine. We'll meet up. Might be a few minutes, might be a few hours, but to you little lynxes out there, it's going to be right now. Okay guys, here we are with another common woodland site. Dead, rotting trees that are still erect. They lose most of their bark as insects, squirrels, and birds start hollowing it out as it starts to die. And I wouldn't be surprised being up that high if we have woodpeckers. A couple other common sights. Little holes in the ground. Snakes, rodents, things like that. And then shrooms. Mushrooms. But they're usually not as pretty as the ones that exist the rest of the year. From another place I go, heading in the eastern direction from where we are now, well, actually east of where I live, in the springtime there is a lot of mushrooms there. I'll probably give you guys a couple images, some pictures that I took from those mushrooms. Here's a fun one. Rocks. Ugh. Other than obstacles in your way, well, is it really an obstacle? Ooh, that was so easy. All right. Arguably one of the coolest New England features are old rock border walls. I heard it said somewhere that, like, there's so many rock walls that you can go around the world bejesus amount of time. I don't know if they were talking about the rock walls of the world or rock walls of European countries in America, or just what exists in New England. Because let me tell you, my mother's current property that we're trying to sell right now has rock walls that go all around it, and then there's a second row of a second rock wall that's behind the one that indicates the perimeter of the backmost part of the backyard. But look at that, and it just keeps going. There's a type of masonry contractors that actually specialize in historical rock wall repair and maintenance. It's a specialty, especially to maintain the historicity of actual historical ones. And then again, not only are our paths known for having rocks, but of course with hydro deterioration down the mountainside, the mountains have rocks. Oh, and look, we have another sign. Let's go take a look. Back to the sign. So now, I'm a little too close. Now, we're being told point 1, point 2, point 3. Ooh, point 1. 1/10 of a mile. And these all indicate that away, which is actually that away. 'Cause also that away, which actually just might be an open area to hang out, because it's hard to see from here, but I can't tell if where that little rock is, if there's, it almost looks like there's a path that heads down there, but I can't see. And didn't follow the #1 rule of hiking. I didn't bring any water. So for those of the world that want to make fun of the Brits for how they say things, there's a particular American I occasionally watch on Instagram, who's an American, and makes these little skits about how those from England speaking with an English accent from the UK say certain things. Some of them are kind of interesting. How people from with a thick English accent in the UK say words, but his biggest thing is the word water, and how they say it, how funny it is, and a lot of people whose YouTube channels, on social media, and on TV, who are English from the UK, talk about when they come to the United States and ask for a glass of water. Come to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, because when I go to the restaurant, I do not ask for a glass of water. I ask for a glass of water. So, excuse me, can I have a glass of water? Hey, look at all the water in the lake over there. We say water. So, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, with the Boston accent, especially if you're in Boston, you're in Dorchester, South Boston, used to be a big Irish community. Or if you're in Brockton, Chelsea, the North End, you got a little bit more of the Irish. Excuse me, I am going to get my butt kicked, aren't I? The North End, the Italian neighborhood. For those of you who don't know, on my maternal side, Irish, predominantly ancestry, and on my paternal side, I got a nonna, and I know it's nonna, but again, Bostonese, although I'm in central Massachusetts, so it's a little whinier and a little lighter, the accent. So I got a nonna. I don't have a nonna. I have a nonna. Okay, the nonna. I have the nonna. We do not mess with the nonna. We listen to the nonna, and the nonna is everybody's nonna. She is literally everybody's nonna. Well, as it turned out, I can't get just going because the path that's right behind the sign, so that tree is 7 feet behind me. The tree next to the path sign. And then I noticed the path. So these rocks, which almost kind of form steps, these rock steps, ladies and gentlemen of the world on YouTube and all my many little links out there, that is the path. And that is the tough part of being a lynx. It isn't just about sitting in a tree learning stuff. It's about jumping down on the ground in the rocky terrain of New England. Oh, and ladies and gentlemen, what is this over here? I think it's something a little simpler than the gigantic gap right here. That's not, this is not like this. This is like this. That goes down. So that's like the top of that rock to the ground. A little more than a foot. Wow. Let's see if I can get a good look at that. Yeah. Geez, what is that? Like 18 inches maybe? That's a nice up. Go over here. So again, for tall people and for short, stocky people with health issues and little kids. So that's another thing too. Little kids. And dad or tall mommy can be over here, and you hold the little kid, and if he has trouble or gets stuck, do what my dad used to do. Lift him up. and plant them back down. So yeah, bring the little kids. I mean, look at this. And look, ladies and gentlemen, it continues. But I'm not sure how well any of this is coming out, guys. It makes it so hard for me to see what I'm actually recording. But let's try this. Gosh darn selfie shtick. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, another sign. This is that sign. Top of, what's I saying, lodges? Oops, my top of ledges. Going straight, where it also says a picnic area. Ooh, picnic basket. Hey, boo boo, and get ourselves a picnic basket. I don't know, Yogi. I don't think the ranger's gonna like it. Maybe we should turn back to the base of the ledges. But I don't want to go that way, boo boo. Okay. Let's go this way, Yogi. To the picnic area. Away. Okay. Here have a sign. Stay on marked trails. Don't be Little Red Riding Hood. This area, you're more likely to fall down a steep rocky cliff and whack your head on a rock or a tree than have to worry about the big bad wolf. Which there's no wolves in New England. At least there's not supposed to be. But anything can happen. There are coyotes, although coyotes really aren't in these mountainous areas. They're more in the valley and field areas. They have started to reside closer to residential neighborhoods. Another thing that's really common out here that people might be scared of is black bears. But you really only need to be worried about omnivorous scavenging black bears if there is a mama and her baby cub. Outside of that, if you don't see a cub anywhere, and you don't hear one crying, and you see a black bear. Okay? Intimidation. Black bears are the ones you stand up and go, rah, 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 and they run the other way. But again, what you should first do is stand perfectly still and listen for a cub. If you hear the cub, that could be its mama. If you don't hear a cub, it's probably all by itself, and it rather run away more than you. Or at least almost as much as you. So here we go, the picnic area. The picnic area, boo-boo. And although I think I have a little in me, I shouldn't push myself. So bring you over to this other sign. And here we have a map. And where we are now is Ledges Trail is that way. And something really cool about that trail that's just right here in the picnic area. I'll show you that in a sec. So the top of Ledges, it's an on Belay Trail that way, and Crow Hill Trail that way. That probably leads to the path I usually take. So this sign here. So according to this sign, this is where I parked today, and we walked. Oh yeah, so this is the, like I mentioned, an access road. So that was that first area. So there must have, where I thought that there was a path by the rock wall, that was it. Emergency access road. There is, if this was the bigger map, and I should have actually pointed it out, maybe I'll point it out again, but way up here somewhere, there would be, no, this was bigger, there would be a ranger station. So, Boo-boo, we really do have a ranger that won't want you taking the picnic baskets. So we thus walked up the trail. That was the previous sign where I showed you picnic area or not. We went picnic area, so now we're here. And also what it's saying is with the ledges, this is a binocular. So that means that there's a place where you can see out into the world with binoculars way off into the vast distance, and that's another site location. So it tells us to go this way, to take a left and then a right. I'm not sure if you remember. Top of Ledges Trail, something unique. That, unlike the other tree, they call an obstacle, and I just stepped right over. That, ooh, that will be our adventure after I take, ooh, look at this, it's broken. The other side looks good. So, I'm going to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to show you how magnificent that looks closer up.